Now, a quick greeting here to the old AW bunch at 948. Regards from Annie Sheridan to Tony Stefersky on New Guinea. Hello to Staff Sergeant Ed Gwynn at 845. And Pat Biggs in the Falkland Islands. Giles Gibson at 711. And Bob Proctor, an ex-Navy man now at sea with the Merchant Marine. Rebel Don Miller in the 462 Transport Group. Lillian Cox and our friends in Newfoundland. Corporal Gertin, an anti-tank Marine in the South Pacific. And F. Batterell, a stoker of the Royal Navy out of GPO London. George Nagel, infantry headquarters at 3-3. Steve Jascha in the 926 crowd. Golden Gate Conrad, the songwriter of New Guinea, and the men at Minguito Flats. Our best of the comic section somewhere in England. And that's Dick Tracy, Andy Gump, Jiggs, Flash Gordon, and Pruneface. And speaking of the comic section of Command Performance, here's a good old friend of yours and mine, that eminent scholar, gentleman, and judge of pre-war stuff, Robert Benchley. Hello, Bob.
Hello, Ronnie.
Seems to me, Bob, you're looking very serious.
Well, my friend, these are serious times and confusing. Now, the government is trying to avoid confusion, so I decided that I could contribute something by becoming a news analyst.
Contribute something to the confusion?
Well, yes and no, yes.
Well, since you've taken up news analysis, would you mind analyzing a little something for us?
Why, no, indeed. I'd be very glad to answer any questions that may be submitted by the audience. That's the way I usually work. Just write out the questions and submit them to me. In this way, the questions are not only unrehearsed, but have no bearing on the answers. And as they're sent up by the members of the audience, they're sometimes quite illegible, which makes it all the more uninteresting. But this method does serve to keep the main points straight. And I often think that the main points are the most important ones sometimes.
Well, now, Bob, here's a question which has just been sent up. It's from Mrs. Luther H. Ding of 3155 Ackrid Street, Phosphate, North Dakota. Mrs. Ding asks, I heard a man talking the other day about the danger of inflation. What is inflation, and is there any danger in it?
Now, inflation means, just what it says, inflation. Suppose, to make it even clearer, we take a dollar bill. We take a dollar bill such as this one. Now, this dollar bill would, in 1938, have bought one pair of roller skates. Now, between 1938 and 1943, wages have gone up 18%, or down 18%, according to what line of work you're in. With this 18% rise or fall in wages, the production of roller skates will have gone up or down 45%, making a surplus of roller skates over and above the cost of production and the margin of consumer demand. Now your dollar bill will buy just half as many roller skates as before. We can tear this darn dollar bill in half. Yeah. You see? Or in other words, twice as much. Is that clear? Now, this is known as Boyle's Law. Now, we have just seen that the ratio of price fluctuation to wage fluctuation, or, if you prefer, the ratio of this half of the dollar bill to this half of the dollar bill, or the stabilization of... let's look at it from another angle. Or better yet, what is the next question, Ronnie?
Oh, yes, here's a question from Arthur J. Razor of Bridgeworth, New Jersey. He asks, in the event of a stalemate in Upper Rhodesia, what would be the effect on Trade Route 106?
Well, now, this is a very provocative question. Because there are so many ways to answer it that one of them is bound to be right. Now, trade routes are very tricky things to make predictions about. In the first place, because of their dependence on trade, and in the second place, because of their dependence on routes. For example, now, I have some figures here. In 1937, Russia imported this commodity to the value of $3,863,000. Of this, 473 million were white, 140 million were approximately white, and the rest were the same as those in Group A, white. This is all, of course, as of 1930. And when we say 1930, we mean, naturally, 1934. Now, so much for the manufacturing end. Why don't we let this simmer for a while? What about inflation, Ronnie?
Well, I think you covered inflation, didn't you?
Oh, did I? I don't want to repeat myself. As a matter of fact, I see that my time is up. Are there any questions? No questions? Good. Good night and thank you.
Thank you, Bob Benchley. Well, fellas, into this world come many gifted men, yet such is the law of human mathematics that of the many, only a handful leave a mark that time can never erase. One of this handful of men is Jascha Heifetz. His contribution to the personality of our nation is that of an artist who works with the soft brush of great music, painting pictures that are visible only to a man's heart, pictures that leave behind them a gift of inspiration. By command of the men and women of the armed forces of the United Nations, accompanied by Emmanuel By, Command Performance welcomes America's distinguished violinist, Jascha Heifetz.